Okay, so welcome Edupedia World students. Welcome to the Introduction to Advertising Module 2, where we are going to learn about the right sort of advertising mindsets that you need to have. Now, this is a incredibly important module because we're going to go a little bit deeper on what these mindsets actually are, why you need to know them, and how these mindsets can specifically help you with your advertising. And just before we start on that, what I would like to do is just cover what we covered in the last module, which was the purpose of advertising. Certainly specific to this course, okay? It's to improve your sales. And what we really sort of came to the conclusion of was that we want to use the advertising which can take away the need of selling one-to-one. Now, like I said in the last module, in my opinion, the best type of selling anyone can do is face-to-face. I'm a big advocate of face-to-face, but it's difficult to scale. If you've got one salesperson in one place, if it's you, if it's a member of your staff, if it's someone else, you can only be in one place at once. So what the advertising allows you to do is sell one to many. You can create an ad and it can go out to a lot of people. And we like to use that word salesmanship multiplied, which came from this man here in the 1920s, John E. Kennedy. And he said it is good advertising is merely salesmanship multiplied. He says with the salary of a single salesman, it is now possible to reach 1,000 probable customers for every individual that salesman could reach personally. So he's just talking about how that can be really scaled. And then the original ad man, David Ogilvy, he even had it on business cards and letterhead, we sell or else. So I really want to make sure that you have that understanding that the type of advertising that you're learning about in this course, the ultimate objective is to sell. Okay, it is to sell, and it is to multiply your ability to sell as well. So now we get back to the advertising mindsets, and specifically what they are, why you need to know them, and how they can help you. Well, first of all, we need to understand what are mindsets. You know, what am I referring to, and why am I just so adamant that you need to adopt these 7 mindsets forever, you know, with your advertising. Well, a mindset is a way of thinking about something, the outlook you have about a particular subject or vocation, and in this case, of course, it will be advertising. That in turn determines how you approach something, and most important, the action you take. If you have the wrong ideas, understanding, and expectations, chances are you will make some serious mistakes. And with advertising, this involves spending money, and this can have some huge, dire consequences. Now, for somebody who really doesn't like to come across as the doom and gloom sort of guy, you would be very sort of surprised, therefore, to hear me in the last module and now in this module speaking about some of the consequences. But where I get a little nervous with advertising and teaching advertising and just sort of making sure that I don't beat around the bush and I get right to the point, as my teacher Todd Brown likes to say, with no fluff, no filler, is the fact that advertising involves you spending money, taking money from somewhere. And if you're not doing it correctly, and if you continue to spend, and if you're encouraged to spend by other people, and it's not being done correctly, you know, the consequences can be very, very extreme. So this is why I'm making a point of saying, look, you really need to understand this, and then you can make the right kind of decisions which will make you money as opposed to spending money. You know, I think about my good friend David Rothwell, the AdWords for e-commerce whiz. You know, the first thing DR often does when he goes in and starts speaking to a client and he has a look, and the minute he smells a bit of a rat, he says, look, just stop. Put everything on pause right now. Because he understands that somebody is spending money. And if they're spending it incorrectly, that's not a good thing. So he'll say just straight away, just pause. So in many ways, what I'm sort of saying here is that you've got to get these mindsets right, because we're talking about money. We're talking about your money, and the consequences could be like this fella here who contacted David Rothwell. What you're looking at is a program that we've just put together with David Rothwell, and it all stemmed from an email literally out of the blue that DR received from Sean White, who is a Harley Street hypnotherapist. Those of you familiar with Harley Street will know that it's a very sort of well-respected part of London where various treatments take place, be it dental work, be it surgery, plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, all the other sort of wellness related things. And Sean's a Harley Street hypnotherapist who went to an AdWords agency to help him sort of scale what he was doing, and he came away from that association quite literally broke. He had no money left. And so if you have the wrong sort of mindset when it comes to advertising, okay, this is how bad it can actually get. All right, so this is why I really want to once again make a point about it. So we are looking at the mindsets, and the beautiful thing about this is that when you combine the right mindset with the right skill set, using the right tools, you give yourself a great chance to put together very successful advertising campaigns. So, advertising mindset number 1. You must take full responsibility and ownership for any advertisements created from this moment on. So what I mean by that is, in the case of Sean, he went to an agency who put some things together, and as I said, the consequences were not great as a result of that. And what I'm saying from this point on is that even if in the mid to long term you do in fact get an agency or get somebody else to do that for you, or for that matter, if you are, an agency already, you're looking to do something, you're looking to do this on behalf of someone, or you're a manager, you must take full responsibility and ownership, meaning you've got to understand what you're doing. And a big reason why, and I cover this towards the end of this module, is if nothing else, you need to know and understand what's working for you, what's not, what is out there, what's not, and then that can sort of help you as you make your mind up on whether to make any more investment, or, in the words of DR, whether you're just going to pause your advertising right then and there. This gentleman here is a really good guy. His name is Mike Summer, and he owns Moons Cycles here in Ipswich. I worked with Mike a few years back, providing some marketing support and assistance for him, and there I am there taking some photos. It was a really good gig. It was a local business. I love working with the local businesses because I can go out there for a day or two, took some photos, put some things together on YouTube, Facebook, and all the rest of it. It was a lot of fun. And here is Mike, who in many ways is a local entrepreneur who really does want to do good out there. Okay, he sponsored a couple of guys to go on a long bike ride. He's very good with vouchers and coupons. He attends trade shows, so he goes to shows to try and find out the best information that's out there, the best bikes that are out there, so he can continue to serve his customers. Active on social media, as I said, this was the original Facebook fan page that I put together for Mike. And is very comfortable standing in front of the camera and recording things, and that. There was just a joy to work with Mike. Did so many things right. But what happened once was he said to me, "Oh look, by the way, I run some ads over in this magazine, and I just want you to sort of know that it's out there." And I sort of said to him, "Well, how's it going?" And he says, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Well, who put the ad together for you?" He says, "Oh, look, I just send them my logo and they put something together for me." And I sort of said, "Well, Mike, that's we've got to change that. You need to understand this. If nothing else, each month or every couple of months when somebody comes to you and says, look, Mike, same again, would you like to do this? You need to have some conversations with them. And he pretty much said, look, I'm too busy to do that sort of thing. And we had to sit down and actually get through this, because I made it quite clear to him that, Mike, unless you take full responsibility for this, there's going to be very little that we can sort of track, we can measure, we can adjust, we can tweak. But more importantly for you, when you're sitting down at the end of a month or at the end of the year and you're going to say, what and where and how am I going to spend my advertising money? If you have absolutely no idea about what you've been trying to advertise and whether it's worked or not, it's not going to serve you. And thankfully, he did take note, and he put me in touch in the first instance with the company, and we had to go back and forth. But I just remember once it was quite heated, this discussion, because I pretty much said, look, this is something that you have to take responsibility for. So with your advertising, whether you're the owner, whether you're the marketing manager and you're handing it over to somebody else, you must take personal responsibility for what goes out there and understanding it, because ultimately this is an area of the business, this is an area of your finances that can erode quite quickly without you even being aware of it until it's too late. Mindset number 2. Understand the wants, needs, fears and desires of your target audience, as this will not only help you decide where to advertise, but also what to advertise. This man is widely regarded as one of the greatest copywriters ever, and certainly one of the great living copywriters. His name is Gary Bencivenga, and he writes a wonderful and he's got one online called Bencivenga's Marketing Bullets, which is just a fantastic resource for marketing, copywriting, advertising as well. And Mr. Bencivenga came up with a really good quote that I use often. He says, "You are not the star of the show, your product is." Okay, so what I said with the advertising, you've got to understand who it is you are advertising in front of, and more importantly, what's going on in their head. What are their fears? What are their desires? What are their frustration? What are they anxious about? What are they moving towards? What are they trying to run away from? And then use that knowledge that you have in your ads. So one thing I love to do, and will be doing more in this course, is I love to get examples of ads that are out there. And this is the Hadley Dental Surgery that's not too far away from where my mother lives here in the UK, in Suffolk. And as you can see at the very top, we've got Hadley Dental Surgery, we've got the phone number, we've got the address, and then under that we've got the name of the dentists, and we've got their qualifications next to it, right? Now, of course, nobody wants to send their loved ones or go themselves to have work on people who don't know what they're doing. That's totally fine. But if we were to go back to what Gary Bencivenga said, where he says, you are not the star of the show, and he's talking about your ad, your product is. And then we look here, and we see a name, we see a phone number, we see an address, we see the names and the credibility of the dentist, and then at the bottom we see family practice, cosmetic, what it does. That's not giving enough opportunity for what they bring to the table to be the star of the show. So that's something that's very, very important, because once you understand who it is who would be looking at the ad, who you want to ideally be looking at the ad, and what they're experiencing, that really does help you along in determining what to put in the ad. So you'll have something a little bit more sort of significant, something that catches their attention a little bit more than just an ad like this. Mindset number 3. Each and every single piece of your advertising needs to trigger an action. You need to become a direct response advertiser, meaning every time you run an ad, you need to ask your prospect to do something. So when we look at the Moons Cycle ad that we originally had here, this was what I saw, and thankfully after the conversation with Mike, he said to me, yep, go ahead, you can speak to the organization. And when I spoke to the organization, I said, listen, we need to change this around a little bit, because as you can see, at the very bottom was the address and the phone number. Now, that could be a trackable phone number, but I know it wasn't. All right, but what I'm saying is there are numbers that you can get which have the same town code, so it shows that it is a local number, but you're able to say, okay, for everybody who got this advert and phoned this number, you know, they called as a result of this. But this wasn't the case, and as you can see, it was quite a static ad. So what we want to do here, if you look at the bottom, all of a sudden I said, win the chance of a free cycling helmet worth £50, like the Moon Cycle Facebook page, and you could be a winner. And we actually sent them somewhere. We made it a specific action. And as you can see, when they came on, we had plenty of comments, plenty of people signing up. It really was a good and great opportunity here for us to sort of become response-driven advertisers. Okay, so every bit of advertising that goes out, you know, you've got to ask the person to take an action. And we're not saying, well, just write your phone number or your website there. We want it to be something specific, because that leads us to the situation now where you can test what you do, right? You need to test your advertising regularly and often. That is advertising mindset number 4. You need to have a testing mindset regarding the different aspects of your advertising, the headline, the offer, the call to action, and the form of media that you use. So if you remember, we had this ad where we changed it a little bit to say, okay, we're going to say win the chance of a free cycling helmet. And as you can see here, we changed it to say 30% off any adult bike on production of this advert. So you can see we looked at two ads here. One was we were saying win something and go to this page to do it. The next we were saying receive £30 off if you cut out this and you bring it into the shop itself. So you've got to test and see what works, use these different formulas, and go accordingly. Advertising mindset number 5. You need to integrate your advertising with other forms of media. So let me explain here. Over here, this ad that you're looking at for winning the chance of the free cycling helmet was actually in a magazine. It was in a local magazine. But from that magazine, we then sent them to another platform. We were integrating other media. And, you know, depending on what you do and depending on which media you send them to, you're able to track, you're able to combine, you're able to get them onto different platforms. Now, here is an example of one of my ads that I do for when I'm opening my social media manager class. It's just for some local people who I teach how to sort of manage social media from home, right? And you can see the ad itself. I've got the headline there, I've got some bullet points, and then you can see it says free training course. And when we move a little bit lower there, there was the website, which was becomeasocialmediamanager.co.uk. Now, it's not up now. I do it once a year, and then I'll be putting it up in a few months' time. But interestingly enough, look towards the bottom there where I have highlighted in yellow. That is the main web address, and then you can see the one with the red arrow is a different one. So I specifically integrated a different form of media, a landing page, where I would send people from handing out this flyer or putting this flyer in a shop window and then sending them to a web page, because then it also enables me to, number 1, get an email address, and number 2, I can track it as well. So when we go back to the Hadley Dental Surgery ad and we look here and we're sort of saying, okay, well, who's the star of the show and what action are we asking people to take? You can see where it says Hadley Dental. And if we move them along here, you can see that arrow at the top right. That was me just looking and seeing whether they had actually put something up there where they could track. And in particular, I'm putting some Facebook code. You know, I've put that red arrow up there because if they had Facebook coding on this page, right, it would have a blue checkbox, meaning people would see this advert, they would click onto the website, And then from that, this dental surgery would be able to attain this information, so when people are on Facebook, they'd be able to run ads to them, but they haven't done that. So this is the importance of integrating your advertising in your media, where you send people from one platform to another. And the other beautiful thing about this is that you can begin to understand and track their behavior. Advertising mindset number 6. Understand, accept, and appreciate the fact that a good percentage of your advertising will not get you the results and the overall outcome you desire. So now you're saying, okay, Mitch, you're saying that we need to advertise, you're saying that we need to spend money on that, you're saying that we need to do all these things, but now you're also saying that we need to understand, accept, and even appreciate the fact that a good percentage of this stuff won't even work. It won't even get the results and the outcome that we desire. And that is exactly what I'm saying. This man here is Eben Pagan, who is just really one of the entrepreneurial and marketing talents out there in the world. He is responsible for, just creating some unbelievable training in the areas of business, relationships, time management, personal development, coaching. His business online has made in excess of $100 million, and he's very well respected. Tony Robbins took time to interview him. Eben interviewed Sir Richard Branson at an event a few years ago, and Sir Richard was so impressed he asked Eben to then come to one of his events and interview Sir Richard. So, what I'm trying to say is that Eben Pagan really, really does know his stuff. He's got his marketing and entrepreneurial and advertising chops, that is for sure. And Eben actually came up once and said, expect 80% of your advertising and marketing to not work. 80%, meaning if you run 10 ads, 8 of them are not going to work, and you must go so far as to expect this. So as you can imagine, for me as well, it didn't sort of sit particularly comfortably. But this is where Eben elaborated a little bit. He says, expect at least 80% of your advertising and marketing tests to fail, meaning they do not bring enough sales in to justify continuing. So they can work, they can bring in some sales, but maybe not enough to justify continuing. And then he said something very interesting that I'll just like to elaborate on a little bit. He says, we're not trying to win a coin flip with our advertising and marketing. We're drilling for oil. Now, what he meant by that is, look, I'm all for small victories, but what he's saying is that sometimes you might have to have a specific ad in a different magazine, or a specific ad in the same magazine and you change the headline, or a specific ad in a different magazine where you change the headline but you keep the offer. Alright? So he says we're drilling for oil, because once you get the right formula together, once you get it, he says you can have some quite spectacular results. So what he's saying is that have the mindset that you go out there, you put something together, and it's very possible it won't bring in enough sales for you to say again and again. And this is one of the reasons why I also said to Mike over at Moons that he had to take more responsibility, because it was, I'll never forget this, it was a phone call that I got where the lady just basically said, oh, same again, same again. Just, she was just going to run it through and invoice him, run it through and invoice him, run it through and invoice him. And I said, well, no, if it's not working, we need to stop. That's not saying we need to stop spending money, but we need to stop doing this particular ad with this particular headline and this particular magazine, or let's test it. And this is one of the really, really big things here. Okay, this is why you mustn't take time in doing advertising. You need to get something out there so you can get the feedback as soon as possible. And that takes us to advertising mindset number 7. Measure your results. Understand your numbers. Now this is somebody who I speak about regularly and often. It is the late and truly great management consultant Peter Drucker, who said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And he went so far as to say, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So this is one of those things where we're talking about you've got to be able to put an ad up there and you've got to see whether it works or not. And this is why we talk about sending it to a specific web page, or sending it to a certain phone number, or asking people to cut out a coupon and bring it to the shop, because then we can measure it, then we can improve it. Or as the great, very direct Texan Keith Cunningham likes to say, people who don't want to measure don't want to be held accountable. And that's a very, very strong assertion that he said. But he said, look, if you don't want to measure, if you're putting an ad in a magazine and you're not saying phone this number and quote this, or download this coupon and bring it in, or come to this web page and put your information in, or call and ask for a consultation or a free assessment or anything else like that, it means in effect you're not holding yourself accountable. You're not holding the money that you are spending or the money that you are a custodian of accountable, and that's not a good thing. And interestingly enough, going back to Gary Bencivenga, guess what the name of his company is? Look down there at the red arrow, Accountable Advertising Inc. So therefore, you need to measure your results and you need to understand your numbers. And another reason why this becomes very, very powerful is that if you know a certain advert is working, then of course you can recycle the money, you can put more money in it, you can stop doing certain adverts. It just will then dictate your future behavior. And you know the most important thing about it as well, you understand that so vitally important thing about how much it costs for you to acquire a customer. Alright, so therefore measure your results and understand your numbers. That is advertising mindset number 7. So we are now going to review the mindsets, the 7 mindsets I want you to take on, and I want you to really sort of have these for as long as you are doing advertising, either for yourself, for your business, or for someone else. Mindset number 1, take full responsibility for your advertising. Mindset number 2, understand the wants, needs, frustrations, fears, and desires of your target audience, because that will help you as you begin to craft adverts. Mindset number 3, all your advertising must trigger an action or a response. Mindset number 4, test your advertising regularly and often. Test what you write, test what you offer, test where you place it, test where you send them. Just continue to do this. Test your advertising regularly and often. Mindset number 5, integrate your advertising with other media. Okay, this is a beautiful thing where if you start doing things like classified ads for small pieces of money, or you're putting ads in windows or on billboards or banner ads or anything else like that, begin to send them elsewhere, because you can also track some of these places. You can capture further information and you can put them in effect in a funnel where you can begin and complement the relationship that has started. Mindset number 6, understand and accept that some ads simply will not work. You're going to put some things up there and it's not going to work, and then you sit down and you say, okay, let me try this again with a different headline. Let me try this again with a different offer. Let me try this again with something else. And you know, sometimes it just won't work. You cut your losses, you put it on pause, as DR likes to say, and you move on. And then finally, measure your results, understand your numbers. You must know and understand your numbers, and you must measure your results. You must be accountable for your advertising. Okay, so before we start module 3, this is your assignment, this is your homework that I mentioned to you. Gary Bencivenga, he has the marketing bullets. Just go to http://marketingbullets.com, and previously there was an opportunity to put your email in, and Mr. Bencivenga would send these emails to you with the bullets on there, but you can actually go there and just go to the page and copy paste and print them out. I've actually printed them out. There are 27 bullets. I have bound them, so I've got a bulky binder, and I read this every week. It is fantastic stuff, and as I said to you, I just want you to just become smarter at all of this, and who better to learn from than one of the greatest ever living copywriters, and a very, very nice man too. And then secondly, this module is on mindset, and I'm going to go so far as to say if you're going to succeed in business or anything in life, your mindset and the way you think and your outlook and the thoughts that you put in are going to be everything. So while on the topic of Gary Bencivenga, go over to successbullets.com. Now again, Mr. Bencivenga has retired now, all right, so you will see 12 life-changing quotations. Just put your email in there, get them out. And what I have done and what has really helped me over the last sort of 2 or so years is to go deep in 1 or 2 things rather than be shallow in 10 or 12 things. So if you get the Bencivenga bullets, if you get his success bullets and just go through them and understand, you know, how you think when you're going about this advertising, when you're going about this personal development, it will really, really help you. But you need to do these 2 things, okay? And again, the success bullets, there's not many of them. There's 12. Bencivenga bullets are great. You really need to have them. It'll be one of the most valuable things that you ever do with the Bencivenga bullets. Please believe me. And then coming up in Module 3, we are at the stage of where we are putting together a good advertisement, okay, and using an age-old proven advertising principle that will transform the effectiveness, the response, and the results of your advertising right away. Now, I'll put that little asterisk there because it is subject to addressing and understanding the almost what I like to call the pre-advertising checklist. It's just 3 things, very simple, that I discuss in the next level, in the next lesson. And connect with me, all right? Just come over onto the Facebook page, Twitter. Let me know what you're thinking of this teaching. If you've got any questions, by all means ask. I will be very happy to answer them. You can see some videos on the YouTube channel. You can keep up with me on Instagram. Instagram is a page where I do actually go when I'm out and about. I just take a photo of ads and put them up with a few comments, so that's probably a good place. And then my radio show, which is weekly, Build a Better Business, radioshow.com. You can go over there and sign up. But thank you for joining me for this module. I hope you're getting things out of that. Please go over these 7 mindsets, all right, and I look forward to seeing you in the next module.